morning to you all. Yeah, shall we start the session? You can hear my voice, right?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last class we discussed different types of attributes, right? Nominal, numeric, ordinal, binary. Likewise, we categorize all the attributes into 4 types, right? Similarly, we can categorize continuous or discrete or continuous value. The numeric values we can categorize into continuous or discrete. Then we discuss some plotting techniques, how we are plot the data by using different techniques, pixel based, right? Then geometric coordinates. Likewise, we can discuss some basics about how we can plot the data, right? So you don't need to worry about that one. I just give an introduction, right? Today we are going to discuss the important topic, right? Data pre-processing, right? So whatever the data mining task, first of all, you need to do before you directly move for the data mining task. You can definitely you need to complete this data pre-processing, right? If you complete the data pre-processing, then only whenever you apply data mining for your data, you are getting some accurate predictions or accurate results from the data mining, right? So if you analyze the data, if you have a clean data set, well pre-processed data, then only you are getting some accurate predictions, right? I will give an example, right? Just imagine, you are collecting, let's say you are develop an IoT module, right? You are develop an IoT module to sense the temperature and humidity, right? These are the 2 parameters maybe you're capturing by using some IoT module, right? So you fix some sensors in different places, right? Then you are configure with cloud by using maybe you can use ESP32 or Wi-Fi modules, right? So then you can write the code, right? From this IoT module, your sense data, right? Let's say you are defined to sense the information every 1 minute, every 60 seconds, it will capture the temperature and humidity, and it will upload this data into the cloud, right? So now what if you look at here in your cloud table, right? Maybe there are 3 parameters, the date and time, one attribute. Then this is a temperature, maybe it's a Celsius or Fahrenheit, also humidity, right? So these are the parameters in your table, it will fill, right? In the cloud, you have this day table, right? Now, just imagine, right? Maybe you are fixing 3 modules, 3 IoT modules in different places of your house or something, right? Somewhere else you have 3 modules, 3 IoT modules, right? Each module capture this information, right? Every 30 seconds, right? Just imagine because of some errors or because of some vulnerability in your IoT component, right? One of your component, IoT component is damaged or they have some errors, right? The component errors, the IoT, the maybe DHT11 sensor, or maybe you are using some other sensors to capture these informations, right? So sometimes there are possibilities in your sensor, they have some error values, right? In your sensor, they have some error values. Because of that, right? The temperature values, it will give some abnormal values. Just imagine, right? This is your module 1, IoT module 1. This is your module 2, right? So now just think about your module 1 works properly, right? So at a particular time, it will, like, let's say 9 o'clock, it will get the accurate temperature. 9:1, it will get the another accurate temperature. 9:2, another accurate temperature, right? But in the module 2, they have some errors, right? In the module 2, they have some errors. Let's say because of that error, right? Let's think about it will capture, let's say actually the temperature by the correct module, right? 40 degrees Celsius, right? Just imagine this is 40, but in your module 2, it will sense as a 20 degrees Celsius, right? So 9:1, right? For 9:1, your temperature is actually the true value maybe 35 Celsius degree. Here maybe 21 Celsius, or maybe 9 o'clock, 9:2, maybe 24. Likewise, because of that error, right? You are getting different readings, right? So, but actual the temperature is different, right? So now, whatever you are doing a research, some capturing some weather information or whatever the information by using IoT, we cannot say only one module is enough, right? Definitely, you need to establish more number of modules, more number of similar modules, right? Then you are getting the readings from different modules. Then you can get the average value, right? We can get the average value for these three modules, right? So if you have three modules, maybe there are very less probability or possibilities. All the three modules are give errors, right? So one or two modules, because of some errors, it can give some abnormal values, right? Now just think about the actual temperature is here the 40 degree, 35 degree, here 30 degree, right? So now tell me, what is the average? What is the average? Let's say some purposes, right? So we already know if you have a missing values, right? We need to fill the missing values by using mean value, right? We are using mean to fill the missing value. So now tell me, what is the mean for these three parameters? Just get the sum of these three, 40 plus 35 plus 30, right? Here the 30 is there, right? So you can get the sum of three, then divided by three. So then 105 divided by 3, then 35 degree Celsius is the mean temperature, actually mean temperature, right? So now what will happen, right? Just think about, because of some error values, right? Because of the some error values, right? Now if you are getting here the mean value as 20 plus 21 plus 24, then 65. 65 divided by 3, maybe 32 point, sorry, 65 divided by 3, 21.99 or something, right? So if you look at the variation between the actual values and your value, there are vast differences, right? So now what will happen if you are using this module uh, to do some predictions or to do some machine learning model development? Definitely your model not work properly, right? So maybe if you are predicting some values by using these data set, definitely your prediction will have some errors, right? Your prediction is not good. So what you need to do, first of all, in the data pre-processing, we can do these type of things, right? So you need to, there are different things we can do in the data pre-processing, right? So first of all, you need to apply all the data pre-processing techniques. Then only you can move for the remaining machine data mining or model training part. Then only you are getting a good accurate results, or maybe your model works properly when you clean the data after you apply the data pre-processing techniques. Definitely you are getting some correct answers or correct values as an output, right? Otherwise it's very difficult to get uh, uh, accurate decisions based on your models, right? Another example, right? Sometimes what will happen if you have reading errors or some equipment errors, right? The mean values are different, right? So sometimes there are some abnormal values are included, right? So maybe if you have a questionnaire, I'm asking you, maybe what is your monthly servings, right? Maybe monthly serving, right? Normally, their servings coming from 50,000 to 50K to 100K average for a particular job role, right? But someone abnormally here putting maybe this number of Ks, right? Actually, this is not his value, right? His value is on here. We are using the K. K means 1,000, right? So 100,000. So he omit this one, right? He put all the zeros. Now what will happen? This is an abnormal value here, right? So with this value, if you get the sum, definitely you are getting a wrong mean value, right? So this is abnormal value, right? So because of the unit, he will not change the units. Because of that, it gives an abnormal value. So if you directly apply this value with this value, you are getting a wrong mean value, right? So if you fill the wrong mean value, your predictions or your model training failure, it will failure because of these error values, right? So the data, before you apply whatever the data mining techniques, definitely you need to do the data pre-processing, right? So here we are going to discuss how we can pre-process the data. What are the different ways we can pre-process the data? Okay, now, yeah, we will move for the important things, right? So end of this session, you can understand what is the data quality, right? So the important thing, you need to think about the quality of the data, right? So whatever the data mining task or whatever the data analytic work you are doing, first of all, you need to think about the quality of your data. Without the quality of your data, maybe you cannot do some outcomes, or you cannot do any predictions, or you cannot get any knowledge, right? So if you extract any knowledge from the data, definitely your data must be a quality data, right? If you collected the quality data, then only you can extract the meaningful knowledge, or you can extract some more important decision based on your data, right? So yeah, let's imagine, right? That's why we are doing, while we are doing a research, we mention you need to collect your own data set, right? So we cannot use internet data, right? Maybe some of the students are doing the research just directly getting the data from the internet, right? Then they will do the pre-processing, right? They will do the pre-processing, and they will then directly apply the data mining or machine learning task, data mining task, and they will develop some models, right? So we cannot say this model work properly for whatever the scenario we have. Just imagine someone collected a data set for yeah, skin cancer, right? So someone collecting an image data set for skin cancer, right? He collected the internet, the data set he collected from the internet, right? Then he will do the pre-processing for the image data set. Then he will develop some uh, machine learning model, right? If you apply this model to do some testing purposes in our country, right? In our country, in Sri Lanka, if you apply the same model to predict skin cancers, what do you think? Is it work or not? Tell me. Just imagine one of the student doing a research, just he collect the data set from the internet, right? Then he will do all the pre-processing, and he will select the proper suitable data mining techniques, and he will develop some suitable models by using this data set. Then he apply this model, apply in the sense, right? Now there is a patient, right? There is a patient coming with some type of skin cancer. Now by using this model, he need to predict what type of skin cancer the person has. So is it work? Tell me,
No, sir.
is it works?
No, sir.
Yeah. Why? What is the
Because
reason you are telling?
skin, different countries have different skin type is here. So maybe a wrong
Yeah,
decision.
yeah. What else? Yeah, your answer is correct.
Give the wrong information about skin cancer. He has one skin cancer, but it will give the details about another skin cancer. So
Yeah,
it
very
may be
good.
a
Yeah.
danger.
What about others? Do you have an idea? Just I am telling you, you are getting some internet data set, right? You can do all the pre-processing, right? You are not miss anything. You properly do all the pre-processing, and you will find out suitable data mining algorithms, and you can develop a model, right? So by using this model, if you are planning to do some testing in a country, or maybe you are now after your model development, maybe you are developing a mobile application, right? You hand over the application to some cancer hospital, that, right? If they are using that application, tell me whether it's worked properly or not. One guy says two reasons, right? The wrong information, right? Another one, he said the content is different context, right? Different context is different. What about others? What do you think? Tell me, what do you think about this, or whether it's working properly? Just think, there is nothing about the subject knowledge, right? Just a practical thing I'm asking you. Skin cancer, right? Tell me, just think, or tell me whether you are getting the correct predictions if you are using the say model what you are developed. What do you think? That is what we need throughout the subjects, right? No need to remember the things, right? If I ask you some practical things, you need to answer the questions, right? What do you think about others? Only two guys are answering. Around here, 22 guys are there, right? Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, yeah, 007. Your answer is correct, right? It's all depending on not suitable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most of you tell the correct answer, right? The first thing, right? That's why we are look at the data quality, right? So this is the source we are getting from the internet, right? So we don't know whether this data is collected in a proper way, right? Yeah, there are so many reasons we can say, right? I will tell some important things, right? The first thing, just think about you are collecting this data set from the internet, right? So you can't believe this data set whether they are collected the data in a proper way, right? So first of all, you need to think is there the data is collected in a proper way, right? So the proper way in the sense, once you collect the data, just you cannot label directly for the cancers, right? So if you are collecting the medical related data set, first thing you need to consult with the domain experts, right? We are not a domain experts in the medical industry, right? So you need to you need to get the expert review from the doctors who are expertise in this type of cancer, even not only doctors, right? Maybe if you are planning to some OPD doctors and you are getting some knowledge, it's not a good thing, right? So if you are collecting a data set, first of all, you need to get the expert review. Experts, the guy who expert on that field, they are the one classify the different types of cancers, right? So for even you can't get the doctors who are from OPD, they are provide some common things, right? You need to find out some specialty for the skin cancer, right? He is the one have enough knowledge on this area, right? So if you are getting, even you can't review, right? As yourself, you cannot review for the data set. First of all, you need to find out some the subject experts related to the skin cancer, right? So we don't know what will happen for these, how they are labeled the data set, right? So the believability of the data is zero, right? We cannot say. That is the first thing, right? How they are label the data, what is the mechanism, how they are labeled with consulting with the experts, right? Sometimes they will get some reading in the internet, right? So so maybe you are the one you can yourself label the data, but you don't know actual knowledge, depth level of the knowledge in that skin cancer. So definitely your model, your data set is a good thing, right? So that is one thing, right? Another thing, right? That is the first thing, right? We don't know the information is correct or wrong, right? How they will label. There are so many concerns here, but we don't know if you are collecting from the internet. Another thing, right? The context of the data, right? So just think about now you are planning to start a business, right? For that purposes, you are collecting the data set from the university students in Southeastern, right? So you are consider Southeastern University students to collect their, maybe you provide a questionnaire, right? What are their requirements? Based on the requirements, you are starting a business in the university surrounding, right? So you have a questionnaire, you can provide the questionnaire, you get some data, and from the data, you have some patterns. So you have some uh, outputs. So based on the outputs, you are planning to start. Maybe you are plan. This is a seaside, so you are planning to start some umbrella shops or maybe some king coconut shops, right? Because here the temperature is high nowadays, right? They are because of that, students are expecting some uh, soft drink shops likewise. Based on the patterns, based on the questions, you get something, right? So now you cannot apply the same questionnaire or the same results you are extracting for different universities, right? Maybe you cannot apply the same thing in the Sabaragamo University, right? Or maybe you cannot apply the same thing in Uva Velasa University, right? So depending on the area, depending on the culture, depending on their where they physically located in the university. So depending on the context, you need to decide what are the things we can do, right? Here, what will happen? We don't know. Maybe they will explain the things, right? For which country, right? So maybe they are collecting this data set from European country, right? So they are collecting from an European country, right? So their skin pattern is different, right? The skin color, right? There are so many things. If you are a medical student, you can understand. right? We know the skin color is different compared with our country people, right? So because of that skin color, right, maybe the symptoms for the different cancer type, they have different features or different symptoms in their body or something likewise, right, in the skin. So whenever you apply a data mining or data analytic or research works, you need to think about for which context you are collecting the data. If you're collecting the data from Sri Lankan context, then only you can apply for that data and train some models with that data, right? We cannot use the different country or different region data to apply the same models to predict in our country, right? So maybe the model works, right? The model do some predictions, but the predictions are not accurate. That is the thing, right? If you have a European data set and you can pre-process and clean all the things, after that you are developing the model by using the European data set, right? But what will happen if you predict that cancer by using that European data set? Definitely your model says something, right? Maybe type 1 cancer or type 2 cancer, whatever it will tell you, right? Depending on the label in your European data set, it will tell something, but we cannot believe that outcomes, the predictions, what they are telling throughout the model. Why? They are collected the data for different region, different type of skins, but in our country, they are everything will change, right? Maybe their food culture or their living culture. There are so many difference compared with the European and Sri Lankan, right? So we cannot say the outcomes of that European data set exactly match with our context, right? So maybe these are the main reason, two reasons, right? We cannot say we can apply the data, right? So how we can find out this type of things? So first of all, we need to think about the quality of the data, right? If you know what are the parameters we evaluate for the data quality, then only you can understand whether we can apply these or not, right? If you don't know the quality of the data, how the important the quality of the data for your model training or for prediction purposes, then only you can tell, right? If you know the vast knowledge about the quality attributes of your data, then only you think these different ways. Otherwise, you think, okay, it's fine, right? We are collecting some internet source, maybe Kaggle, or there are so many open source links are there to they will upload the data. If you use the same data and if you do the model training and if you do the predictions, we cannot guarantee whether the outcomes are accurate with our country or with our context, right? So how you can find out? By look at the quality attributes, right? We will discuss some data quality attributes. So based on the data quality attributes, you can understand what are the different uh, things we are consider, different aspects we are consider to evaluate the quality of your attributes, right? That is the first thing we are covered in today's session, right? Another second part, data pre-processing techniques. What are the different data pre-processing techniques are there? Right? We can categorize all the pre-processing techniques under four major categories, right? So all the four categories we can say pre-processing techniques: cleaning, integration, right? Reductions, conversion. These are the four main things, right? First thing, cleaning, right? So the cleaning process contain different things, right? Cleaning, the first type of things, cleaning, right? Cleaning the data, one type of pre-processing, right? The second one, yeah, integration of data, integration, right? The third thing, reduction of data. Fourth one, transformation of data. So we will look at the what are they four different pre-processing techniques one by one. So these are the content I'm planning to cover throughout these pre-processing chapter. Right now we will look at data quality. Right. Okay. Okay. Now tell me what are the aspects you consider as a data quality. Okay. Okay. Now tell me what do you mean by quality? What do you mean by the term quality? Is it a good or bad? Okay. Now you have visit a supermarket. Right. You have two brands. Right. Dip, different brands have different quality attributes. Right. Okay, I would just think about the simple example, right? Maybe in while you are surrounding throughout the streets, right? There are some curd shops, right? Curd, I think you know, right? The curd shops are there, right? So in the two sides of the roads. Maybe nowadays, maybe some Muslim students or in the Oliville area, you can notice there are some so many shorty shops, curd shops. Likewise, there are so many shops, right? Now tell me, what do you mean by the quality in these curd shops? Hmm? Did you consider the quality while you are purchasing curds or not? Tell me, if you are purchasing a curd, do you think about the quality? Or you don't need to worry about the quality? Hmm? What do you think? Do you concern for the quality?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, what is the reason? If you avoid the quality, right, because of lack of quality, what will happen? Maybe you have some issues, right? Maybe while you are eating that curd, it creates some issues. Maybe in your maybe because of that you need to meet the doctor for some purposes, right? So the quality means they are maintain some standards, right? While they are preparing the curd, definitely they need to maintain some standard procedures, right? So similarly, the data quality means that's one of the important thing, right? If you are collecting a data, you need to think about the quality of the attribute, right? How you can find out the data quality. So just avoid this one. So here you are consider the quality means how they are collect the milks, right? So what is the container they are using to store the curd, right? Similarly, how they are pack the curd, right? There are different factors we are consider, right? What is the expiration date when they are prepare the curd? What is how long they will sell this curd? Likewise, we are consider different parameters for the quality attributes, right? Similarly, we don't need to think about this way. Now tell me, similarly, data quality is important, right? So while you are collecting the data set, definitely you need to think about the quality of your data, right? How you can evaluate the quality? What different what are the attributes you consider for the data quality? Tell me, what are the different
Time period, sir.
attributes? Sorry,
Time
tell me
period.
again.
Which time period this data
Yeah,
collected from it?
yeah. Which
Which
time
time
period?
period this data is
Yeah, very good. What is the duration? Maybe just imagine, right? You are planning to develop a data mining task for intrusion detections, right? So just think about this is a practical example. Recently, we have we have an interim defense, right? So on that defense, right, someone you with proposals, right? He planning to do a intrusion detection systems. He's a network guy, right? He developing a intrusion detection system by using data mining and machine learning, right? For that purposes, he uses a data set collected from 1994 or something, right? In that area, he don't have a actual real data in 2000 the recent years, right? Now he collected some data set from internet in 1994. The data set is collected. What do you think about the data? So that is related to timeliness, right? So the first point you tell, what is the duration you are collecting the data, right? Now tell me, he doing a intrusion detection system. Maybe just think about he planning to develop a system for DOS attack, right? Denial of service attack, or distributed denial of service attack. These are the things he need to find out by using his parameters, right? So someone try to attack DOS attack, his system identify those at DOS attack and it will terminate. It will stop those type of attacks. That is the final results of his research, right? What do you think about these data? If he use 1994 data, tell me whether it's suitable. Hmm?
no, sir.
Tell me, is it suitable?
No, sir. There are so many
No,
updates
sir.
come from the attacks. So
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's why I tell you, right? If you are doing a research, you need to think about different ways. I think he didn't know those things, right? Maybe in 1994, we don't know whether they introduced the DOS attacks, right? So first of all, he need to find out the literature review when they started the DOS attacks, right? So, so if he used the 1994, definitely there are some parameters in the data set. It is not affected nowadays, right? So because of advancement of technology, right? The people are using different techniques or different ways nowadays, right? So if he used the 1994 data for his model developing, it will not affect or it will not predict actual attacks, actual DOS attacks, he cannot predict by using his system because the data he used to train the model is 1994. That is outdated data set he uses, right? So because of that, he will not get the proper results from his research, right? So what will happen? Maybe maybe you have another 1 year, right? After that, maybe next semester you need to provide your proposals, right? So at that time, definitely you need to think these things, right? So there are not only timeliness, there are so many parameters, different parameters we consider for data quality attributes, right? Now we will look at what are the different accuracy of the data, completeness of data. There are so many things. We will look at one by one. What are the different attributes we consider for quality of your data, right? The first data quality attribute is accuracy of your data. How accurate your data, right? That is the first parameter. So accuracy plays a major role in your data quality, right? So what do you mean by accuracy? So accurate means what? Accurate. If you are reading by using a device, you are getting an accurate results, right? Maybe, yeah. Yeah. I think you heard about ultrasonic sensors, right? So this is ultrasonic sensors, right? Here we are using ultrasonic sensors to measure the distance between the obstacles, right? Do you have experience, right? Am I correct? Tell me. I think you heard about ultrasonic
Yeah,
sensors.
sir. Yeah.
What is the purpose of ultrasonic sensors?
Object detection, sir.
Sorry?
Detect the object in a particular
Yeah,
distance area.
Distance.
yeah,
Detect
yeah,
object
detect the
distance.
objects. Yeah. So now think about, right? You are using these ultrasonic sensors, right? Maybe you are developing a robot, right? Or you are developing some uh, robot, right? For that robot, you are developing different ultrasonic sensors, right? So if you have an obstacle, you need to program how they will rotate, right? So we cannot use only one ultrasonic sensors, right? So we need to build different ultrasonic sensors, right? So while that robot moving, let's say uh, now you can measure the length from the it means it will send some ultrasonic waves, right? So it will uh, meet that ultrasonic wave, meet the obstacle, and it will return, right? So how long it will take this travel, the wave traveling. So based on that, they will find out the distance between the obstacles and the uh, sensor, right? So now again, if we move a little bit close, what will happen? What is the distance? By using these parameters, we can evaluate the distances between the obstacles and the sensors, right? So that is a normal procedure, right? Accuracy means, right, if you have some mistakes or your ultrasonic sensor is not working properly, right? Or maybe your emitting sensor is not working properly, or maybe there are some variations. So whatever the reason, there are so many reasons, it will accurate, it will inaccurate, right? So now what will happen if you are measuring these distances, it is not give exact values, right? So if if your readings are inaccurate, means what? Your readings have error values, right? So if your reading is inaccurate, accuracy is the data quality attribute, right? If you have a more accurate data, then you can use that data for your model training, other purposes, right? Data pre-processing, or maybe you can use, if you have a highly accurate data, then you can use that data for your model training purposes, right? So if you the accuracy of your data is less accurate, so definitely the less accurate data will not provide proper outcomes, or what are the outcomes what we are expecting throughout the machine learning or data mining task, right? So the inaccurate means because of some purposes, some reasons, your data have some error values, right? So error values in the sense the value which you measured by using the sensor or whatever the input parameter, whatever the device you are using to measure the value, it will have some error values. Error values means, error means what? The wrong answers, wrong values, right? So error means it is not the correct value. They have some accurate value, but because of some reasons or because of some different factors, your component, your IoT component give some error value use, right? Even if you measure the rainfall data, or if you find out the rainfall by using some sensors, right? So what will happen? Accurate means if the rain occurred for particular duration, right? You need to measure the accurate rainfall in millimeters, right? If you have a mistakes, errors in your value, it will impact the outcomes of your research, right? So the data mining means that's a research area, right? We need to propose something new to the world, right? New to the society. So that's why we are doing data mining tasks. Maybe some 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 outcomes of the data mining, uh, we are introduce something to the world, right? Otherwise, we are introduce something to a particular company, right, or particular organization. If it is a private sector, they use that the outcomes or the findings of their data mining task for improve their values, right, to improve their uh, economy or to improve their benefits, profits they are using, right? Maybe scientific outcomes are free for the society to get beneficial for the human beings. Likewise, we are doing the data mining, right? Data science means that that's the thing, right? We provide something new to the world, right? We propose something to the society, free or economic value have, right? So the inaccurate data means the error values, right? In the data set, we have some error values, right? In your data set, if you have an error values, we know, right? If you have an error value in your data, definitely it will affect your results, right? I think you learn the central tendency, right? So I think you learn these things in the practical session. Central tendency in mathematics, statistic, mean, median, mod values, right? So these are the three things we can call in mathematics central tendency, right? So the mean value, average, median, the middle value, mod value, the most number of occurrences happen in a particular outcome, that is we can call mod value, right? So these are the three things we can call as a central tendency, right? So I think you know these things, right? Now tell me, if you have a data set, if you have a column, right? Just think about you are collecting a column, number of years they have experience, then their salary attribute, right? And maybe you are getting their servings, right? Monthly servings, right? These are the three parameters, right? Years experience, number of years experience that guy have, the employee have, right? Employee ID or something uniquely identify. So you have a table, right? Now just think about the salary attribute. In the salary column, there are so many inaccurate results, right? So normally that is we cannot ask someone's salary, right? So that is a normal thing, right? So that's a private data. So even the companies also disclose their salary attributes for their employees, right? So if you are using the salary attribute some purposes for your research, right? We cannot say all the employees, all the target audience for your research give the correct answer, right? Sometimes they are omit these cells, right? Sometimes they will give some wrong answers. Some actually they are not disclosed their actual salaries, right? Because of so many different reasons, they are not disclosed their salary, right? So now what will happen in your salary attribute? You have many inaccurate, inaccurate cells, inaccurate values. So because of these values, if you are using this data set for any data mining task for pattern recognition, if you have the inaccurate values in the salary attribute, definitely you are not getting the correct outcomes or expected outcome from these data analytic work, right? So first data quality attribute, you think about the accuracy of your data, how accurate your data, right? So the inaccuracy happen in different ways, right? I already mentioned, right? While you are collecting the data, that instrument, the data collection instrument you are using for the data collection purposes, they have some fault errors, right? The previous example, if the sensor, ultrasonic sensor have some fault errors, because of that, the readings you are getting from that ultrasonic sensor, it will give some error values, right? That is one thing. Because of the instrumental error, you are getting inaccurate data, right? So tell me how you can find out or how you can sort it out these instrumental errors. Tell me how you can sort it out, the instrumental errors. So because of that instrumental error, you are getting some inaccurate results, right? How you can sort it out this inaccuracy in your data with the help with the instrumental error. In your instrument, they have some fault values. Because of that, you are getting inaccurate results. So how you can overcome this challenge? This is a challenge, right? While you are doing a research, if you have an instrument, they have some errors. Because of that instrumental error, you are getting some outdated values or you are not getting exact values. So how you can sort it out this problem? Right? These are practical things, right? Maybe next semesters, upcoming semester, you will realize those things. How we can sort it out these things? Tell me how we can sort it out. Actual thing, this is a big subject, right? Maybe we can talk one topic, maybe 2 hours, right? Yeah, maybe you can use standard instrument, right? From some organization. Yeah, that is not a perfect answer, right? Just maybe you can use portion of the answer, right? Normally, while you are purchasing, normally we are purchase some quality attributes, quality instrument, right? We are not getting some very how to say, we are not always we purchase some instrument, they are well qualified instruments, right? So how you can sort it out the instrumental errors?
We want to measure the errors.
Yeah, first, yeah, that is fine. Yeah, maybe before you use the instrument, right? We are using more number of instrument, and we will find out the errors, instrumental error, right? We can find out the instrumental error, right, by using different devices, right? So if it is a uh, ultrasonic sensor, right? Maybe how you can find out the instrumental error, right? Actually, you can provide, let's say you can fix the ultrasonic sensor here. You have fixed the ultrasonic sensor here, right? Maybe this is your obstacle, right? This is your obstacle, right? By using a measure tape or something, you are calculate the distance, right? Manually, you calculate the distance. Then by using this ultrasonic sensor, you calculate the distance, right? Now you can think about what is the variation between these readings, right? So from that, we can calculate the error rate, right? So error rate. So the total measurements out, what is the variation into 100%. This is we can call error rate, right? So by using this type of equation, maybe, yeah, you can calculate the error values, right? So based on the error values, you can pick some more suitable instrument, right? That is one way. What else? How we can find out the instrumental errors in your device? Tell me how you can find out instrumental or how you can sort it out the problem with instrumental errors. Because while you are using an instrument, they have some error values. Because of that error values, we are getting inaccurate results, inaccurate outcomes, inaccurate readings from that sensors or whatever the component you are using, right? That's why normally we are using more number of components, right? Rather than you are getting reading from one sensor, right? We are getting more number of sensors. The same sensors, we are build more number of sensors, right? Maybe rather than you are getting the uh, distance from one sensor, one ultrasonic sensor, maybe you are using 2 or 3 ultrasonic sensor in the same way, the same level, right? Same distance level. So you have fit 3 ultrasonic sensors, right, in the same level, right? Maybe 2 ultrasonic sensors, right? So you are getting the reading from these two, then you are getting the average value, right? Or maybe then you are compare the values. You are getting the reading from 2 ultrasonic sensors, then you are compare whether both the ultrasonic sensors have the same answer or different, right? So that is one way. If the ultrasonic sensors have different answer, it indicate your one of the ultrasonic sensor have errors, right? That is one way we can find out the errors. Or maybe the easiest way, we are getting the uh, average distance, average value, the mean value by using different number of sensors. That is one way we can sort it out, or we can reduce the inaccurate results because of instrumental errors, right? So just take a note, right? So the one way we can use more number of sensors or more number of devices to sense the information, then you are getting the average value to reduce the instrumental errors. To reduce the inaccuracy because of instrumental errors, we are get the reading by using more number of devices, more number of sensors or more number of devices we are using at the average value to reduce the inaccuracy with the with with instrumental errors, right? Another reason for inaccuracy, right? While you enter the data, right? Now there is no error in your IoT component. In your ultrasonic sensor, there is no errors, right? But you are sense this information, right? You can pass this ultrasonic sensor data to the cloud or something, right? So while you are transferring this data, maybe you need to insert this data into somewhere else, right? You need to serve this data, right? So this data entry operation happen in different ways. We don't know, right? Maybe you are using cloud, or you need to transfer these bits, the data information to the cloud, or maybe you have in build storage. So somewhere else you need to serve this data, right? So while you are serving the data, maybe while you are enter the data, maybe you are using a questionnaire or something, different data collection process are there, right? So inaccuracy happen because of human errors. Human errors means while you are insert the data or you are record the data, you did some mistakes, right? So actual value is 10, maybe you are putting 10, right? Without concern, if you put 10, what will happen? Because of that, you are getting a inaccurate results, right? Or the human data entry operation also possibilities to do some mistakes, right? So if you look at the rainfall data collections, right? If you look at some dams, right? Just I think we have a dam, DSN, like a dam is there, right? So in the DSN, every day within a limit, within a time period, they will find out, they will sense, they normally they are manually get the readings, right? So they have some specific guy, right? That guy visit the DSN in the morning 9 o'clock, right? He will find out what is the water level, right? What is the water level? He will manually take, they have some measurements in the DSN, right? So just he visit the DSN and he look at and he will find out what is the water level in the DSN morning, right? Similarly, he visit at 12 noon, right? He get the reading. Similarly, he get visit 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Likewise, within the time interval, not 3 hours, right? Every hours, they or they different intervals, they are capturing the water level of DSN, right? Based on that, they will distribute water for different agriculture or some other paddy field works. They will do distribution of water depending on the water level what they have, right? So maybe the reason we have a flood, right? So at the time, you notice something, right? The water level is increased 100 and the cube meters. Likewise, how they will do? They have some measurements. The person visit the DSN and he will get the readings, right? So that's a manual data entry, right? So if that manual data entry have some mistakes, that is a human mistakes, right? Because of that human mistake, also there are possibilities you are getting a inaccurate data, right? So that is one reason you are getting inaccurate results, right? So that's why maybe they will assign more number of human beings, right? More number of people in different location of DSN and ICA to measure, right? So the same measuring scale they are using, they will establish in two different places of DSN and ICA. Then they are getting the reading. Then they are compare the readings, right? Is there any variations? Or so likewise, we need to avoid inaccuracy in the data because of human errors, human data entry errors, right? Sometimes purposefully they are giving inaccurate results. That is also possible, right? So if you are planning or if you are doing a research based on a questionnaire, right? In that questionnaire, you can ask some questions, right? let's say you are doing a research related to that financial issues of the employees in a particular organization or government sector employees, they how they are manage their day-to-day expenses with their salary. That is one topic you are doing, right? For that purposes, sometimes you ask, what about your salaries, right? What about your savings, right? What is the amount you are spend for some other purposes? Likewise, if you have some questionnaire, right? Sometimes the person who answer the questions purposefully, they will avoid some features, right? So if you ask about the salaries of some politicians, they are not telling how about their salaries and other things. What is their income and source of income? There is nothing says, right? If they disclose those information, it creates some other problems. Or maybe sometimes they are not disclose, they are not like to share their information. Because of that, they are purposefully giving some error values, right? So inaccurate values. So they have some different value, but to hide those information, they are giving some how to say some incorrect answers for the questionnaire, or some incorrect answers, because that is also inaccurate, right? So these are the three different uh, causes. Not only these three, there are so many things it create inaccuracy, right? So you need to think about your accuracy of your data. Whatever you are doing a data mining task, first of all, you need to think, how about the quality of my data, right? So in the quality, you need to think, how about the accuracy of my data? How accurate my data? If you have an accurate data, then only you can do something, right? Now, just think about you are planning to do some stock market analysis, right? So let's say someone planning to invest in a stock price, or maybe I think you aware what is stock market, and most of the people nowadays they are invest on some particular brand, right? uh, at that time they need to analyze the prices of the stock, right? So that in the stock market there are different uh, companies or different organization, they have different values for their stock, right? For their market values varying day to day or time to time, for different parameters influence their stock market values of different companies, right? So if you are planning to invest your money, a particular portion of your money in the stock market in a particular company, you need to analyze the parameters. How about their stock value last 10 years or last 5 years, right? For that purposes, we are using some time series analysis. If we have enough time, we will look at that one as well, right? Time series analysis is some different topic. That's also data science, data analytics, right? So at the time, what will happen? What I'm telling here, if you don't have accurate data for the stock market values, we cannot achieve, or we cannot predict more accurate findings from that stock market. So to do these type of researches, the accuracy of your data influence the half of the successful findings throughout the research. The successful finding of a research mostly influenced by the accurate data you have, right? Inaccurate data, you have a data set with low quality. If you are doing whatever the data mining task, you cannot get the whatever the expected outcomes, or whatever the findings you are getting from the research is not uh, well suit or well fit with the scenarios what we are planning to develop that knowledge, right? So the accuracy. What about the second attribute? Completeness of your data, right? So the second parameter, you need to think about the completeness of your data, right? So what do you mean by completeness? So now you are telling you I'm complete the assignment, right? What do you mean by that? Complete. Hmm? So maybe if you answer the questions, if you provide a complete answer, we are giving you full marks, right? What do you mean by complete? Hmm? Okay, I'm asking you questions, right? Not the question, right? Just think about in exam paper. I'm asking you a question, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm telling you, define the data pre-processing techniques. Define the four data pre-processing techniques with suitable example. With This is my question, right? Just think about define the four different data pre-processing techniques with suitable example, right? So what do you mean by completeness? Hmm? So completeness in the sense you need to answer, first you need to answer what are the different core data pre-processing techniques you know, right? So first you need to list out what is the first data cleaning, data integration, data reduction, data transformation. These are the four different data pre-processing techniques. Then you can, maybe you can explain more about this. What do you mean by data cleaning? So what are the things are included in data cleaning? But similarly, what are the aspects of data transformation? What are the aspects of data reduction? Likewise, then the next thing. Now, the last thing you need to explain with suitable example, right? So in the data cleaning, you need to explain with some particular scenario. So if you have this type of scenario, we can clean, we can pre-process this way. So you need to answer with practical example, with suitable example, right? If you write all the things, then only we are giving you full mark, right? Similarly, if you are doing a research, right? Let's say, the previous example I told you, right? You're planning how the income and expenses of a IT sector employee, right? This is a research topic. Someone analyze how the IT sector employees manage their incomes and expenses in the crisis situations, right? So you are doing a research. For that research purposes, so the completeness in the sense, first of all, you need to find out what are the attributes, what are the parameters I need to consider for this analysis. If I need to analyze the income and expenses of an IT sector employees, what are the different attributes, what are the different values, different attribute values I need to acquire to do this analysis. That is a completeness, right? If you miss some of the attributes, because of that attribute, you are not getting the expected outcome throughout the research, right? So if you are doing a research analysis of income and expenses of an IT sector employee, first thing you need to find out, you need to do a thorough literature review. That is, we are told we need to get some domain knowledge, right? So what are the different expenses they have? What are the different ways they are getting incomes as an IT sector employee, right? So you need to get the vast knowledge about their domain of income and expenses, right? Then you need to think what are the different ways they are spend their money, right? How about their culture? Likewise, you need to find out some set of attributes which are directly impact their income and expenses, right? So if you miss some of the attributes here for the IT sector employees, because of that, you are not getting the complete data, right? So incompleteness means you have missed something, right? So let's say for this purposes, you are collecting only 4 parameters, right? You are not considering about their physical location, or there are different parameters influence their incomes and expenses, right? So if you find all the possible attributes, then only you are getting expected outcomes, or then only you are getting some more accurate or more important findings from the research. Otherwise, what will happen? You are not getting a expected outcomes from the research, right? So the completeness means the lack of attribute values. That is, we can call incompleteness. Incompleteness means if you miss some of the important attributes, some of the, how we can say that's an important attribute. For that purposes, that's why we are doing literature review, and we will find out, right? There are some qualitative aspects, right? From the qualitative analysis. So there are so many things, right? So you can learn those things in the research methodology as well, right? So while you are doing a research, research in the sense scientific studying, right? We are, research is a scientific thing, right? So we cannot say I take these randomly, right? If you are do something in a research, definitely you need to prove, right? Because of this reason, I'm using this one, right? So that is important. If you are doing a research, we cannot say I I like, or I think. You cannot say this type of answers, right? So if you are doing a research, definitely you need to you need to define all the things with scientific proof. That is, we can call research, right? So if you are doing this type of research, analysis of income and expenses of an IT sector employee, you need to scientifically prove these are the parameters, they are directly impact of their income and expenses, right? So likewise, you need to find out all the possible attributes for this research. For that purposes, we are doing thorough literature review. You need to get some uh, past researchers, you need to get clear idea about what they are happen. So based on that, you can, uh, yeah. So if you do those things, you are getting a complete data, right? Incomplete data means, let's say, for these purposes, you miss number of children or number of children they have, right? So that is a one factor. Maybe if maybe is there any dependence in their homes, maybe their parents or some yeah, maybe their parents, we can say as a dependent, right? These are the factors also influence their expenses, monthly expenses, because they are senior citizens are there. Maybe you need to spend some amount of money for their medical reasons, right? Medical purposes, right? That is one expenses, right? So if you miss these dependents and children's, you are not getting a correct research findings, right? So definitely you need to find out all the possible attributes, all the important attributes for that research, right? So incompleteness means if you have missed some most important attribute for your research, so because of that, you are not getting accurate outcomes throughout the results, right? So now we will look at what are the possibilities in your data. It can contain some incomplete data, right? The first thing, attributes of interest may not always be available, right? Attributes of interest may not always be available, right? So what they are telling here, right? Okay, uh, just think about you're collecting a data, right, for some purposes, right? So just you are collecting a data set for some research purposes. Research means you are finding something new, right? That is a data mining as well. That's why I'm told the name research, right? Or someone doing a research for some supermarket, right? For some purposes, he doing some data collection and he will do some researches, right? So if you are using the same data set for some other purposes, definitely your data is not complete, right? Your data is incomplete. Why I'm telling here? So now you are collecting a data set for some other purposes, not always, right? If you are using the same data set, some other purposes, definitely your data is not definitely your data is incomplete, not complete data. Why?
Problem is different, sir.
Yeah, the domain is different, right? Very good. So if you are collecting a data set for some purposes, so you do a thorough literature review and there are so many aspects you will learn and you will find out these attributes I need for these research purposes, right? Now, if let's say I have 10 attributes, right? If I use the same data set for some other researchers in future, maybe I'm collecting in 2023, I'm using in 2025 or something, right? Definitely some other parameters also influence that new research, right? So if you are using the same data set, definitely your data is not complete, right? The same thing, right? If you are getting a data set from internet and you are doing a research, what will happen? We cannot say what is the purpose they are collecting that data, what is their main theme of their research, what is the objective of their research. Depending on their theme or objective, they are consider some specific features, right? If you are using the same data set for some other context, definitely we cannot say all the parameters what we want they are captured from their data set, right? So that is one thing. Let's say now, just think about you are planning to do a diabetic predictions model. Let's say someone doing a research last year, right? They are doing a research whether the probability of a person have affected by diabetics in near future, right? That is his research. One medical student doing a research, right? His research is whether he will predict after 5 years or after 2 years, what is the possibilities that different people affected by diabetic or not. That is their predictions. They are predict whether the person affected by diabetic or not. For that purposes, they are find out some attributes, right? Some their glucose level, some their food culture, what is their time duration, they are sleeping. There are so many aspects influence the diabetic, right? So as a medical student, they know clearly the parameters, right? So they collect those parameters and they will do the research, right? Now, this year, you are find out the topic, right? Now you have a topic predicting the type 1 and type 2 diabetics, right? Your topic is type 1, type 2 diabetic predictions, right? So type 1 means the early stage and type 2 in the late stage diabetic or something likewise, right? So now for that type 1, type 2 diabetic prediction, if you are using the same data set he uses, right? So now you are find out this data set from the internet, right? Okay, just you are thinking about, oh, these are the parameters, okay, these will influence. Then based on this, if you are doing something and if you are do a type 1, type 2 diabetic predictions, definitely your data is not complete data. You have incomplete data, right? So if you are doing that data and if you are doing your model training and predictions, definitely it will not show, give you a expected outcome. Expected outcome means it will not give the successful findings, successful patterns from your data, right? So the completeness means if you are doing a research, for that research context, you are collecting the data, right? So if you are using one data set, you are collected for some other purposes. If you are using the same data set for some different researchers, definitely you are not getting a same outcomes, right? So we don't know the context, for which context they are collecting the data, right? So that is the first thing. There are the possibilities, cause of incomplete data, right? So because of this one, you are getting an incomplete data. Okay, the next thing, the data may not be included simply because it's not considered. Yeah, this is also related to the previous example, right? So now if you are doing a research, you need some specific parameters, right? So at that parameters, they don't want the previous data set. They are doing some different purposes. No, so they are not consider all the parameters you want, right? They are collecting the data for their purposes, their context. So now for your type 1, type 2 diabetic predictions, you need some other parameters as well, right? So how long it will affected by type 1 diabetic, it will influence the type 2 diabetic, right? So what is the diet control and that patient after he find out the type 1 diabetic? There are different factors, right? We don't know those factors in the previous researchers. They find out for whether they have diabetic or not, right? So some parameters that is important for your research, but they are not, they are collecting for their researchers, right? Sometimes what will happen? Incompleteness happen, right? Let's say you are planning to do a research, right? The first thing you prepare, you do a thorough literature review, then you can prepare the questionnaire, right? So on that questionnaire, right, you don't have a vast knowledge on that area. Just think about in the initial stage of your research, you are not getting a vast knowledge, right? The important thing, if you are doing a research, if you finish your research, you need a knowledge on that area, right? That is important, right? There is no A grades influence your research, right? Research is nothing, right? Maybe after you complete your research and if you apply for some other university for your higher studies, what are the aspects they are considering from the research, right? So let's say definitely if you apply for masters or MPhil or PhD after your graduation, right? Definitely you have so many questions, maybe 1 or 2 hours they will spend for your research findings and research discussion. All the questions are coming from your research, right? So at that time, from the question, how you answer, they will realize whether you are did the research or not. That is the thing, right? So if you are doing a research in the sense, you need a vast knowledge on that research area, right? If you are doing an IoT research in a particular medical domain, you need an expert on that domain. Then only you can do a research, right? So now what I'm telling here, the third point, right? So as a student in the initial stage, you don't have enough knowledge about your research domain or something. So because of that, you are not thinking about in the questionnaire, you are not thinking about this parameter also influence my findings, or this parameter is important for me to predict or to do some findings, right? But while you are collecting the data, you don't have enough knowledge or you don't have an understanding about your research. You have some misunderstanding. Because of that, you are not include that questions or include some attributes. You are not include some specific parameter. Because of that, you are getting incomplete data, right? After few months, you realize, oh, we need this parameter as well, right? But at that time, already you collected the data, right? So that is also a causes for incomplete data, right? Okay, the last one. Yeah. Sometimes I think the foreign key, primary key, foreign key concepts, right? So I think right? So one primary key we are linked with another table. That's a foreign key, right? So if you delete some primary key table, there are something you that related data also delete in the table, right? That is a normal MySQL thing, right? I think you know, right? Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now what will happen? Sometimes you are collecting a data, right? So after you are collecting data, right? If you delete some attributes or some column, because of that deletion, some other attributes also deleted in your data. That also create incompleteness in your data. Or sometimes what will happen? You think this attribute is not necessary for me, right? So if you delete that attribute, right? But maybe that data also have some portion of the importance in your parameters, right? So these are the some aspects your data. It's a simple thing, right? Incompleteness means your data is not complete. So similarly, the accuracy. So the thing here, you need to think on that domain, right? Whether my data is complete. Complete means all the related attributes I collected for my research. That is the important thing in the completeness, right? Okay, the third thing, consistency. Tell me, what do you mean by consistency? Tell me, what do you mean by consistency?
Unique data, uniqueness of data, sir.
Yeah, uniqueness of data. What else?
There are no more other data related to this. There are no duplicates. Only this
Yeah,
original data will
duplicate.
be exist.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we will look at these things, inconsistency removal, right? So yeah, I think yeah, right. Yeah, inconsistency. Correct the inconsistency in your data, right? In the data cleaning, right? So consistency means you have a unique values. There is no any duplicate values, right? So if you have any duplicate values, that also impact the consistency of your data quality. Right? Data quality we can measure with the help of consistency, accuracy, completeness. Consistency also we consider for quality data. Right. So if you find out the quality data, you need to analyze these areas. How about the accuracy of the parameters? How about the completeness of your attributes? Similarly, you need to think about the consistency of your data. Right. So these are the three third attribute you consider for the data quality. So if you have an inconsistency means you have some duplicate values. So if you have a duplicate values, it will not give the expected outcomes, right? How I am telling here, duplicate values, right? Just think about, okay? Just think about, right? Okay, the same example, diabetic example. Okay, just think about in the diabetic example, right? One student doing a research diabetic predictions model, right? For that purposes, he need to provide a questionnaire, right? The sample size, let's say the person planning to get the questionnaire, 500 outcomes, 500 answers, right? This is a sample size, right? He provide the questionnaire for 500 pupil diabetic patients and he get the answers from them, right? Just think about, right? He visit some clinical, the government clinics, and he meet the patients, and he find out the find record data set, right? Now, just think about two genders we have, right? Male and female, right? For the male, he collected 400 samples, right? For the female, he collected 100 samples. Okay, just think about 400 samples for male, 100 samples for female, altogether 500 samples, right? What do you think about this? So 400 diabetic patients he consider for male, 100 diabetic patients for female. What do you think about this data with the consistency? Okay, before think about the consistency, tell me, what do you think about this? Hmm? If you are using this data set, whether your model work properly or not? If not, why? What is the reason? Hmm?
Not
The
properly
gender
because
is not
that's the
balanced.
data collection.
Yeah. So whatever you are doing a research, right, you need to think about different parameters, right, in your research. Let's say in the diabetic patients, you're not only focusing for male, right? Your research is common diabetic predictions, right? If you are doing only for male or female, a specific gender, you don't need to worry about this one, right? Here, you are doing a research for diabetic predictions, right? So at that time, your data is important, right? What are the different types of data you are using, right? What is the size of your data is important, right? So the data analysis or model training in the sense, in the machine learning, we can call model training. Model training in the sense from the past data set, what you are feeding to your system, feeding to your algorithm, it will learn. It is similar to the baby how learn, right? From the surrounding, they are learning all the things. Similarly, your machine learning models learn from the past data you are feed into your algorithm, right? So at that time, if it is a diabetic prediction model, if you look at here, there is a 400 records for male, 100 records for female, right? This is not a balanced data, right? So if you are doing a research, first just you can search balanced data, right? This is a big topic, right? So I cannot teach here balanced data set, or we can say how to balance the data, right? Just find something. If you are planning to do a good research, you need to get some knowledge how to balance the data set, right? Data balancing, right? I am giving here some techniques, some basics, right? So you need to find out these balanced data set means what, how we are balancing, right? There are different techniques to balance the data, right? So just learn those things, right? I'm not teach here, right? Just search this thing, how you can balance the data. If you while you are doing a research, you face these type of things, right? We cannot say we are collecting exactly same number of instances for all classes. If you look at here, he made 400 diabetic patients from male, only 100 female diabetic patients, right? So this data set is a not balanced data set, right? So this is we can call imbalanced data set. Now what you need to do for the imbalanced data set, we cannot do the research, right? If you are doing an imbalanced data set, and if you train a model, if you feed the data 500 tuples, and if you train a model, that model is not balanced model. Balanced means that is not a proper model, right? That model learn a lot about males diabetic symptoms, right? Only 100 samples we are provide 20% of the learning about female diabetic symptoms, 80% of the learning behavior of that machine learning model related to male diabetic patients, right? So what you need to do, right? Yeah, I will tell some other terms, right? Undersampling techniques. There are different sampling techniques are there, right? Find out what are the different uh, sampling techniques, right? Undersampling, oversampling. There are some other things, right? I don't remember all the things. Undersampling, oversampling, what? Yeah, I will explain, right? So here, this is an imbalanced data set, right? We can say this is a imbalanced data set. So you need to convert this imbalanced data set into balanced data set. So how you can balance this data set? Hmm? Tell me. Tell me how you can balance this data set. What are the different ways we can balance this data set? Tell me your, just think about and tell me, right? Up to now, I'm not teaching anything you need to remember, right? I'm telling everything. I'm increase your thinking capabilities on this area, right? You don't need to remember anything, right? Just think about your IQ and tell me the answer, right? I tell him here, we have 500 samples, 400 samples for male, 100 samples for female, right? That's an imbalanced data set. We cannot directly deal with that imbalanced data set for model training purposes. If you are doing this way, definitely your model not give the accurate predictions, right? Definitely, I will guarantee your model is not perform well, right? Now, definitely you need to do some balance the data set. What are the different possibilities you can balance this data? Tell me. Any volunteer? What are the possible ways you can balance? Just think about 100 samples and 400 samples. how you can
Getting
balance?
more 300 samples from
Yeah,
female.
very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, maybe he can, yeah, he can get another 300 samples, right? Maybe again, he can visit some other hospitals, right? Or maybe he need to find out other 300 female diabetic patients. Then altogether, he get 400 samples, right? One way. What else? That is not very good. Yeah, that is a correct answer. What else? Hmm?
And decreasing the males.
Yeah, very good. That is the answer I'm expecting from you, right? So to balance the data set, maybe you can increase the minimum number records into the maximum. Right? Minimum means 100 samples for female. Maybe you're getting another 300 female diabetic patients. That is one way. Second way, right? You can split these 400 data into 100 data, right? From this 400 data, only you are getting 100 females, sorry, 100 males, right? Already we have 100 females, right? 100 female records. From here we have 400, right? We are splitting this 400 into 100, right? So we are splitting 100, 100, 100. Likewise, we are using this way, right? So the second way, you are getting randomly 100 samples from the male, then you are training the model, right? So this is a balanced data set. This is second way. The third way, right? This is something different, right? The third way, the second way, you can reduce the sample size. Right? Randomly, you can delete some 300 samples and you are using only 100 samples, right? That is also not good way, right? Why? You have more number of data, but you are reducing the number of data. That means you are lost the value, right? You are invest your time, your money to collect the data, right? So if you have a more number of data, then you have more knowledge. Right? That is a theory nowadays, right? If you have a data, that is your money, right? If you are converting the data into knowledge, that is your intellectual property nowadays, right? So if you reduce 400 male records into 100 means just without using anything, you are deleting randomly 300 samples, right? So this is also balanced data one way. The third way, right, you are splitting the 400 male data into 4 groups, right? 100, you can split 4 groups, right? One set with 100, another set with another 100. Likewise, you are splitting 4 groups, right? You have first 100 male records, then using these 100 female records, then you can train and you are develop a model 1, right? So you are developing a model 1. Similarly, by using the second 100 male records and you are using the same 100 female, then you can develop the model 2. Here, 100 female, then model 3, here, model 4, right? Now you have 4 models, right? Then there are something called ensemble learning, right? There are something called ensemble learning, right? Just you can search these terms, right? If you need to do a research, these are important, right? Reduce the female samples, right? Yeah, it's not correct, right? Reduce the male samples, right? Because we have more number of male samples, right? So maybe we can increase for the less number of samples, or we can decrease the large number of samples into less number of samples amount. Right now, if you have 4 models, you can apply ensemble learning techniques. I know what is ensemble learning, but just you can find out, just search and find out what is ensemble learning, right? So ensemble learning, in the sense, I'm telling the concept behind ensemble learning. Right? Ensemble learning means, right? Let's say you have a question, right? You have a question, right? Okay, just think about it. You have a question, right? For that question, you are giving that question for 3 experts or n number of experts. Let's say you have a question, right? You give the question for expert 1, right? You have different experts, right? You are giving the question expert 1, he give an answer. The same question you give the expert 2, he give another answer. The give the same question for the expert 3, he'll give an answer, right? So the 3 experts giving you 3 answers, right? From these 3 answers, you are giving the summary of the finding, that is we can call ensemble learning, right? So it means once you predict the model, you are feed your new data set with model 1, model 2, model 3, and model 4. based on these 4 models, you can give the summary of the answers. That is, we can call ensemble learning, right? So this is one way you can balance, right? So why I'm telling here, so this is a data balancing technique, right? Now, sometimes we are discussing about consistency, right? Some other ways some people do, right? That's why I'm explained here. This is a proper way to balance the data set, right? But I notice the previous badgers, right? What they are doing, right? That is not a correct thing. That's why I'm telling here. Maybe let's say you have a 180 set. Let's say you have 200 samples for one gender, male, 195 samples for female, then only you need 5 samples. For that per 5 samples, just you can randomly pick some values and you can duplicate, right? So it means just you are copying the same samples and you can replace again, right? So it means you are duplicating the value. So here what will happen? We need a 400 to convert into the balanced data set. We need a 400 samples for female patients, right? Now this 100 records, he can duplicate 4 times. So duplicate means he copy the 100 records again and again 4 times. Sorry, 3 times. So altogether he have 400 records. That is one way you are balancing. So at that time, what will happen? Your data becomes a inconsistency, right? You have a more duplicate values. If it is a very few, 5 to 10 records, it's okay. You can apply the uh, duplicating the value. Did you get my what I'm telling here? We have a male 400 samples. Here we have only 100 samples, right? The person, this is happened in recent one of the student, we find out and we tell that, right, for the research. We can't do that one. He selected 100 samples, right? He can copy the 100 samples again, then he get 200 records. Again, he copy becomes 300. Again, he copied that 100 records, 400, right? This is one way he can increase the size into 400, just duplicating the values, right? So it means same each record, it contains 4 times in your data, right? So on that time, your data becomes a inconsistency data. Your data is a inconsistent data. Did you get my point? Any
Yes,
questions?
sir.
So now what will happen if you have this type of inconsistency, right? It means you are telling the same thing again and again for your model. While you are teaching, you don't have the content, right? Normally, just think about there is one teacher, he's not prepared or he don't have lack of knowledge. He will teach the same thing again and again and again. So that's the thing happen. He duplicate the data 4 times, right? So each record 4 times. So just think about, I'm teaching the same thing again and again and again and again. Is it your knowledge increase or not? Tell me. Your knowledge is not increased, right? Did you get my point?
Yeah, sir.
The same thing happened for the machine model training purposes. If you are using only 100 samples, you are multiple 4 times. The same data set you are duplicate 4 times, you're getting 400 samples, right? So it means it's similar. Just think about last 4 lectures. I am teaching the same thing again and again and again and again. I have only one slide. The 4 weeks I am teaching the same thing. Only you are expert on that chapter. You don't know about the other parameters or other things about the subject, right? So it means you have a very limited knowledge, very less knowledge you have. If I do the same thing, if I teach the same thing again and again 4 times, just think about last 4 weeks, we are discussing only one slide, right? First week I teach the first slide. Second week also I teach the first slide. Third week also the first slide. Fourth week also the first slide. You are expert only the first chapter. You don't know anything about that one, right? That is also not a good practice, right? So if you have an inconsistency in your data, it means you are duplicating the data many places, right? So because of that, what will happen? Your model lack of knowledge in the different scenarios. Because of that, your data quality will be reduced, right? So did you get my point? So for explain the inconsistency, I talk about data, balanced data, right? How we are balancing the data, different balancing techniques. So these are not in the slides, right? If you attend the lectures, you can take your own notes, right? So normally in my slides is very, very short, right? I am not putting everything. Most of the things I am talk by mouth, right? I did put everything, right? So if you attend my lecture, you are getting more number of knowledge, more knowledge rather than the slides. If you are reading the slides, you are getting a very few limited boundaries of knowledge, right? So if you want the knowledge, you need to attend my lectures, right? These are very important for your research, right? So take a note and you can learn a lot. Ensemble learning, I explained, right? I explained about balanced data set, how you are balancing different balancing techniques, undersampling, oversampling. These are the two things, right? Oversampling, I don't exactly remember those things. So one thing we can say undersampling, one thing we can say oversampling, right? So if you have a more number of, you can reduce. If you have a less number, you can increase, right? So what will happen if I create duplicated values again and again, my data set considers an inconsistency of data. Because of that, I have a lack of knowledge in my training, right? So if I feed the data set into my machine learning model, my model will not get the expected knowledge. That is the problem if I increase the data with the help of inconsistency, right? Fine. Let's speed up the things. Okay, the next attribute, the fourth attribute, timeliness, right? So I don't need to explain more about timeliness of your data. That is one quality attribute, right? I already explained what do you mean by timeliness of your data. Tell me, if you understand, tell me what do you mean by, it means the data quality attribute, that quality of your data measured with the help of timeliness of your data. What do you mean by that?
The
Timeliness of your
duration, sir.
data means, yeah,
Which time period is
that,
suitable for this
yeah,
data?
which duration you are collecting the data, right? The time duration where you collect the data also impact the quality of the attribute, right? The previous example, DOS attack, right? So if you are collecting a data, very old the data, and if you are doing a research, right? Definitely you are not getting some new knowledge, new patterns, or new techniques from that attack types, right? So the timeliness is very, very important, right? If if you are using the data for your research purposes, you need to think about what is the time duration you are collecting a data, right? That is we are called as a timeliness of your data, right? What about the believability of your data, the trustworthiness of your data? Hmm? What do you mean by believability or trustworthiness of your data? Tell me. What do you mean by believability or trustworthiness of your data? This is also we already discussed.
Real
Hmm?
data, sir.
Tell,
Give the correct information users.
yeah, tell me an example.
Uh, in previous example, we asked about their salaries. When we give their information about wrong salaries, they may
Yeah,
be
yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, yeah, you get my point, right? Yeah, if you think about the believability, just think about, right? As a company, right? One company, they are planning to develop some models to recommend their salaries for their employees, right? The purpose of their machine learning model, right? If you feed these number of parameters, you mean, okay, just think about, yeah. So the believability, we can say, right? A company planning to develop some salary predictions model. They are planning to develop a regression model, right? They are planning to develop a regression model, right? So regression means they are predicting the value, right? If you feed these inputs, right? What is the years of experience he have, right? What is the educational level, right? So the under degree or higher studies, it means what is the level of educational qualification, bachelor's or master's or PhD, or what are the certification we have. Likewise, we have some parameters, right? How many years of experience? There are so many parameters. From that parameter, if you read this parameter, your model says what is the salary, recommended salary for the employee, right? So then, depending on their intellectual properties and the knowledge that person have, that model predict the salary for that. The model recommend the salary for the employer. As an employer, your model says a recommendation for the salary depending on some specific set of parameters, right? For that purposes, right, you are getting the data set from your company, right? So your company have the accurate records, right? What is the salary you are providing for your employees with the experience they have? What is the knowledge? What is the projects? How many active involvement in projects based on different parameters, right? Based on different parameters, based on the different parameters, uh, you know the actual salary values, right? This is one way. You are collecting the data set from the authorized department, right? You are collecting the salary from the authorized department, right? Authorized department also, you are collecting the data set from the authorized department. Another way, you are collecting the data set from directly asking from the employee, right? Directly ask from the employees, what is your salary and other parameters. You also develop the model, right? So how about the believability, trustworthiness of your data compare with these two scenarios? If you are getting the data from one authorized department, authorized uh, institute, or authorized component, or authorized organizations, the believability, trustworthiness of your data is high rather than we are getting direct questionnaires or some other ways, right? So if you are doing a research related to rainfall, water level predictions on DS Nayaka, just you can get the data from the irrigation department, right? So if you request a messy letter for the irrigation department, then you can get the uh, record data set by requesting to the irrigation department. Then if you are getting a data set, another way, maybe you can get some internet sources, or maybe you can get some other ways to collect the data. Which one is the most trustworthiness, believability of the data? If you are collecting from the data from a specific standard organization, definitely that data set have some unique standards, right? So if they are doing a if you are running under ministry or some other department, definitely they have set of rules and standards. They need to follow the rules to measure the things, right? So the believability of your data also one quality attribute. So what is the source? So whether the source of data is trustworthiness or not, you need to think. If you are doing a research, you need to think, right? So if you are doing a medical research, you need to collect the data some set from the hospital, right? Hospital have the actual records, right? The believability is high. The trustworthiness of your data is high, right? So that's why we call as a believability of your data, trustworthiness of your data, right? The next thing, interpretability of your data, right? So the interpretability of your data means how easy the data we can understand, right? So interpretability means some data set, they are more complex, right? So complex in the sense, some attributes, they are doing some equations and they will create, let's say, you are collecting some attribute. From that attributes, you are calculate some other values, right? Likewise, we have different complex equation, and if you have different value, different columns, some columns we can easily understand what is the column and other things, right? So interpretability means how easiness your data to understand, right? These are the attributes we are considered as a data quality attributes, right? So if you are doing a research, right, you need to think about these parameters, whether, let's say, if you are doing a final year research, right, definitely you need some data set. So at that time, you need to think about the quality of your data, whether what about my accuracy of my data, what about my completeness of your data, what about my consistency of your data, how the timeliness I collected the data, what is the trustworthiness of your data, what is the interpretability of their data. These are the 6 parameters we need to think about while we are collecting a data set for your research, right? If you give more concern for these 6 parameters, your data quality increase. If the data quality increase, what will happen? You are getting some more accurate or more knowledge, more patterns, more new knowledge from your data. They are more accurate and they are more highly proper for your research findings, right? So that's all about the data quality attribute. If you have any questions, you can ask. If you have